Okay, so Jason, you have a list for us.
Tim, I'm always not always a fan of top 5, top 10 this, but it's the end of the year, so let's have some fun.
Yeah. Also, it's clickbaity. It's wonderful. People will watch it.
Exactly.
Go on.
That's why I'm allergic to it. The top 5 post-quantum cryptography pacesetters.
The top 5 pace setters for PQC.
Yeah.
Okay. Interesting.
So Tim, number 1.
Number 1.
I'm going to call that the public web, the browsers, the CDN, and edges. Those are the folks who've been Boss Westerbaum, as an example of CDN representative. He's talked to us about being one of the early adopters of ML-Chem, seeing what broke, and now a whole lot of the world's traffic is going through CDNs using ML-Chem for key exchange. I think they're at the top of the list.
For sure. Like no one else probably in the world has been as accomplished at this as very specifically Cloudflare. And them and a relatively small cadre of similar tech companies have been very advanced in this regard.
I agree. So not far behind, we've talked about this, end-to-end messaging services.
Yeah.
So iMessage, Signal, they were implementing, if not ML-Chem, something, some other key exchange mechanism that's post-quantum.
And I'm already seeing a pattern here, but let's keep going on yours, and then maybe I'll point out the pattern. I think why these guys are pace setters.
This is the reason why I wanted to get into this.
Okay.
So any technology has to do with developer access and DevOps. So SSH and Git ecosystems, they're moving fast in post-quantum right now.
Right.
Because the standards, the open source technology that's behind it, my God, a lot of it is a PQC becoming available.
Well, and that has to be because that becomes a prerequisite for a lot of other stuff.
That's the point.
Yeah.
It's the beginning point of building. So therefore, you have to
have that first, right?
Exactly.
Things go in chronological order. Right.
And so what's the other chronological order? I think number 4 on the list. Like, to me, you could almost lump these as being, they're all number 1, but let's rank them here. The next one is the hyperscalers, right?
Yeah.
Enterprise network providers.
Right. Yep.
Those folks are very seriously rolling out PQC technology right now, especially in behind the scenes chem mechanisms, and also having things like MLDSA available within their PKIs, etc. So they're, to me, next on the list. And I would say, Tim, you can't really talk about this stuff without saying that the U.S. national security system, the NSS, and adjacent government/defense that's related to it, those folks, because of the, everything from the White House executive orders on to the way that the U.S. government's conducting itself, they're taking it real serious.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. So I like that list. I agree with that list. I'll point out a couple common threads across those people you listed. One is, so let's do the 2 things that are maybe very obvious. One is that they're all very technically astute, right? These are either tech companies or places where there's massive investment in tech and they understand that's very, very serious. The second thing that I would point out is, and again, maybe obvious, is these are all high stakes kind of situations.
Yep.
Right? These are the people who recognize that the losses to them and theirs could be great.
Yep.
And want to prevent that and are prepared to invest effort and money and attention and prioritization, invest opportunity cost in order to prevent that. I'll offer a third one that I think is important, is these are places where they have wall-to-wall control.
Right. That's important.
That's essential. So if you look at a CDN, if you look at a major tech provider that controls their whole stack, You didn't say the word Apple, but Apple comes to mind.
We said iMessage.
Yeah, you're right. You did say Apple. If you look at the messaging applications, in all of these cases, they have an advantage that everything is inside their walls. And because everything's inside their walls, you can say it's not standardized, but that's fine. When the standards come, I'll have a project to update what I have to match the standard. And for now, it's standardized for me, and I only need to talk to me, right?
Yeah.
And so you can do that. As soon as you start to get into a truly interoperable, a truly ecosystem environment, you just can't. And so where you see people taking advantage of this, and I think Cloudflare was even explicit about this. When they first started talking about it, they said, because that was before NIST had even settled on algorithms, they said, if these don't turn out to be the accepted algorithms, then we will change, right? Because they had the power to do that because they controlled the whole thing inside their walls. And that's essential, I think, to be on this list.
I want to give some credit to Nick France, one of our colleagues. I wish he was sitting here with us today but I'll use his words in a way, which is, it shows you what had to come first anyway.
Yeah.
The ML Chemy stuff had to be first because the fundamental infrastructure, the handshake algorithms, the people who were at the edge, the people who did own the big like wall-to-wall stacks.
Yeah.
You're pointing out what's really important, the people who had enormous can't-fail risk.
Yeah.
And those are people who started. Mm-hmm. But it's also, this was the truly natural place for it to start. And so for those of you who are wondering, geez, why hasn't Cab Forum have a MLDSA cert yet? It's because that wasn't the first problem to solve.
Right. Also, I think, and you're touching on another consistent theme across these different entities that you said, is these are the folks who ultimately have to be the ones to figure it out. So most of us in the world are going to follow the lead that's set by a relatively small number of technology leaders. And we're going to fit into what they create because it's their world and we have to live in it. These are the people who define that world. And so they pragmatically understand that they have to define it for themselves. And they sort of have that culture. And again, we're mentioning people like Google, Apple, Cloudflare. We know these folks. That's how they are. And so they couldn't leave it to anyone else, and they also wouldn't think to leave it to anyone else. Their attitude is, oh, okay, here's a new technological frontier. We better crack our knuckles and figure it out because that's how they got here, and that's how they operate.
Tim, I'll say it even in a really simple way, part of what you just said, which is, I really hope those of you who are watching this podcast, you might have an interest in what ML Chem is. But I really hope for the majority of you, unless you're Boss Westerbaum and other people like him, that none of you ever have to ever touch it.
Yeah.
Never have to think about it.
Right.
It'll be part of the infrastructure with which you run.
Absolutely. What you need to do, your level of involvement is you need to ensure that you are getting and deploying PQC compatible packages that will be delivered to you by others. Unless you're in the tech space, unless you're a tech vendor, tech vendors, you got to do it for yourself. Everybody else, you've got to do it. You've got to use what you get, which could be problematic because you're on the pace that someone else is setting, and it may not be the pace you want. And, changing vendors is hard. Like if my vendor isn't providing my PQC and I decide I've got to move, that's a big decision, right? And that's rough. And there will be some of that, but it's going to be a rough day for anyone who decides they have to do that.
Rough.
Right.
Tim, stay tuned for our next episode where I've got more clickbait for you.
I love the clickbait. Thank you, Jay.